Timmy Joe reviews anything.
Reviewing computer parts on YouTube.
That's fun.
Gotta be pumped on that, right, Will? Computer parts! Woo!
Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Far Cry 5. Thanks very much, guys. Brought to you by the ladies and gentlemen of Patreon. We are here for freaking Titan Black review time. That's right. And I want to give a special thanks to a friend of mine. You know who you are. Provided this, from his work, and it was so freaking new that look at it doesn't even. I mean, isn't that crazy? It's got a freaking... It still has the little titties on it and everything. So it's running the Far Cry benchmark. Yeah, I got loads more performance and stuff data, but there's a little story behind this sucker. I mean, it was at one time the fastest single GPU card on the market, and its legacy, starts with a 7970 basically, and it ends with Volta, which is pretty cool. Check out the performance. High settings, 1080p. What do we got? So this is 59 minimum, 66 average, and a maximum 7. Oh, we'll get to the real frame times and stuff like that in this game in a little bit. Just wanted to kind of pimp my new video game benchmarking, whatever. That's going to be fun. So let me bring you on a little story, a little tale, if we can get out of there. Boom! Of the Clash of the Titans. Essentially, Nvidia likes to be on top, but there was a time when AMD actually had some upper hands sometimes, okay? So around the Kepler launch, this is still Kepler, we're talking the 6 series, the GTX 680 came out, and it beat out the 7970, which at that point was the fastest. AMD was actually on top. They preemptively launched a card right at the beginning of the year, and it came out and it was fast, but Nvidia had it up their sleeve. They released the 680, and it does very, very well, but it turns out there was a little bit of headroom in the 7970, so they released a gigahertz edition. We all know that, and it then took the crown back of the fastest single GPU card. But Nvidia, they had some plans. They had some big plans. Instead of fooling around, they just released the original Titan, okay, which turned out to be a freaking $1,000, and it was a very, very fast card based on Kepler. Very close to the specs of this card and stuff too. It had 6 gigs of VRAM, which was huge, and it took the crown back. But AMD wasn't going to have it, so they released they went to the R9 280 at that time, and then Nvidia released the 780, and then the 290, and those were very, very fast cards. This was a time, unlike now, where AMD was neck and neck. So they had to do a revamp on this, and they released the 780 Ti, which was effectively just stupid fast, with 3 gigs of memory, and it took the crown back. But it made their then Titan, the original Titan, obsolete, because now all of a sudden you have a consumer-grade graphics card that's faster than the Titan. So they released the Titan Black. And no, I'm not talking about the Titan X, which is actually a black card. This is the Titan Black because the letters on it are black, and that's that's where we end up here. Now, the legacy of the Titan has lived on. There's been like way too many to count at this point, and we're on to just Titan V. No GTX anymore in Volta, but this is the 2nd gen, and it's Kepler's fastest card, debatably, mostly because it has the exact same specs as the 780 Ti, but it has double the VRAM. But I would argue that the 780 Ti is probably faster when you get a version that doesn't have this crappy ass cooler. This cooler is more like a hotter. That's a dad joke. it sucks. In fact, I believe there's a lot of headroom in this card, whether it be replacing the thermal paste, which I haven't done a thing like that yet. We'll do that in a separate video. I think we could even put a different cooling solution on this and extrapolate even more performance out of it. There's loads of room to do some stuff on it. We're going to get into some benchmarks in just a second, but let's talk overclockability. This thing will get very hot, very, very hot. In fact, I saw it up in the 90s, and that's a problem. But there, it has, some overclockedness to it. That's for sure. In Afterburner, I put another 500 on the memory and 210, and it would go way further than that, but it seemed like everything was stable, just running like Unigine Heaven, like, in a way I normally do things. But the problem was eventually, benchmarking, the temperatures would spike to well over 90, and eventually something would crash. That's what I'm saying. I think if I put a better cooling solution on this, I could go much further with the overclock, and we might play with that in the future, depending on whether or not I get authorization to mess with this. I'd like to maybe at least change the thermal paste, because it wasn't used for a great many years in a box, and that thermal paste has got to be something. Something's probably up with it. Anyways, so back to this. We see this is the stock performance. I'm worried about the graphics score. 11,825, the graphics score, and then boom, 13,854 would be the graphics score with it overclocked. So there's a good 10% minimum in there. Let's queue up some benchmarks, and we'll see just how she performs. And we'll make a little conclusion and some comparisons to some modern day GPUs right after these benchmarks. So there we go. The performance kind of, shows there. I put some 1440p benchmarks in there. I mean, it could do it. And, I might have to bounce the settings down just a smidgen to do it. But the VRAM, I think, is what's allowing the decent performance in that area. Because if you think about it, if you had a 780 Ti and you wanted to run 1440p, it's going to start getting limited by its 3 gigabytes of VRAM. And this thing has that extra VRAM. And I felt confident in half those, like Prey and those like lesser games like Doom running 1440p at high settings because the VRAM was there and it has the horsepower to handle it. So I think that's pretty cool. It's not bad. So essentially, she's still a pretty fast video card. I'd akin it to between a 1060 and 3 gigabyte and 6 gigabyte. Obviously, it has the 6 gigabytes of VRAM, but I think a 1060 overclocked with 6 gigs of VRAM would beat it out. I actually I don't have it ready or whatever, but I checked out my Firestrike results. I've never reviewed a 1060 before, but I have reviewed several RX 480s and 580s, and the RX 580 I just reviewed was only a smidgen faster with it overclocked, to the balls to the walls. So stock performance between this and an RX 580 might be pretty similar, the 8 gigabyte version, and if I could put a better cooler on this and overclock it a little bit further, I think it would be pretty stellar, pretty close to the performance of 1060 6 gigabyte or an RX 580 8 gigabytes. So that's freaking awesome for a card that is several generations old at this point. It's there's Kepler, Pascal, and we're going to be moving on to some sort of derivative of Pascal or Volta, with some faster, a lot faster stuff. And the fact that this thing basically kills any 1080p benchmarks, at this point. You saw, in the Far Cry, it was doing pretty well, and that's a game that just came out at 1080p. So very relevant card. And as far as if you wanted to have a Titan in your system, you could go on eBay. I'll throw some eBay results up here. I didn't research that either, but the Titan badge is gonna put a premium on it over a 780 Ti. But Titans and Titan Blacks are attainable if you want to have that little logo in your system, and they essentially look pretty damn close, to a 980 Ti or a Titan X or a Titan, basically. The cooler looks so damn close to this one. This is just a cooler. But if you want Titan in your system, you could see that, and even the little GTX lights up at the top there. So, thanks very much. Well, I'm sure we'll see an appearance from this card at some point in another build, but this still does 1080p max settings. Maybe have to crank a few things down in some more unoptimized titles like PUBG or something brand new like I had it at high in Far Cry 5, kind of like that, but I had a load of fun playing with this thing, that is for sure. So let's talk this. I got Far Cry 5 by paying out my Patreon. I was basically just able to make a payout on it, and it was about exactly enough for Far Cry 5. So if any of you guys could spare a little bit of coffee money for my Patreon, maybe next month we could buy 2 games or something cool on eBay or something. But the more Patreon and stuff like that, the more you guys go, and it's patreon.com/TimmyJoe, or you can just go to my website, TimmyJoe.com, or head over in the description. I have an Amazon store. This is all stuff I've reviewed and I like. Okay, it's this new affiliate store that they put up there, and it has all kinds of stuff in there that you could go check out that I've personally had my hands on. And if you're in the market for PC stuff, go to my description, go to the store, or even just hit one of those links in there and search from there. It seems like I get Amazon money as long as you clicked the link and then proceeded to do your shopping at Amazon, no matter what the thing is. So pretty cool stuff. That helps the channel. It's a huge source of revenue. So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter, all that good stuff. I want to thank you guys so much. I want to also say a viewer sent me this, so the fun does not stop. I'm not running out of stuff to review here. Here's a dual GPU. It's GTX 295. One of the most highly viewed videos on my channel is the 280, so I can't wait to check out 2 of those GPU cores working in tandem to provide some pretty fun pre-DirectX 11, DirectX 10 level performance. But it's just super cool that I have a community that, and GPUs don't stand up. Pretty cool that I have a little community here that's helping me out getting the cool videos. I was just featured on...
This is Nvidia GeForce 8800 Ultra SLI in 2018 from Timmy Joe Tech PC.
Another awesome tech tubers channel, so I'll link that video below as well. But I gotta thank everyone for watching. I'm gonna go now, and stick around because there's always, tons of GPU fun on Timmy Joe's channel. And builds and stuff and things. I'll see you guys later.